This is lesson 110 for pre-algebra. There are a lot of notes in this one, but it's fairly simple. You should all know about graphing. So this is 1.10, so label your papers 1.10. Now, our first thing is a coordinate plane. You have already written all of these on your foldable that we did in class, so you don't really need to write down every single thing. The main thing I want you to write down is this graph, though. So I want you to write a graph, draw a big graph on your paper, and I want you to label the different areas. Whoa, my line's off. So label this as the y-axis. Label this as the x-axis. Now, quadrant 1, you're going to want to do that. So quadrant 1. And then notice this is a little bit different. It goes backwards counterclockwise. So quadrant 1 starts here, and then it goes backwards to quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. The origin, you want to make sure you know that, is 0.00 right in the middle. So that's an important piece. And then an ordered pair. I'm sure you've heard of ordered pairs. I'm sure you know how to graph ordered pairs, but this is just a reminder. So an ordered pair gives the coordinates of a location of a point. The ordered pair -5, -4, it's right here. This ordered pair P identifies point P in quadrant 3. So if you need to, push pause, finish your graph, and then we'll move on. All right, so this I want you to make sure you write down too. You can write down any ordered pair you'd like, but just make sure that you know that this is the x coordinate. It shows the position right or left of the y-axis, and this is the y coordinate. It shows the position above or below the x-axis. So just make sure you have both of those in your notes. All right, here's an example. Naming coordinates and quadrants. Write the coordinates of point A in which quadrant is point A located. So I look over here at point A. I'm going to write the coordinates. So I start here at the origin, and I'm going to go to -2 on the x. So -2 is my first number, and then I go up 1 on the y, so +1. So it's -2, +1. Over and up is what I always say. Over and then up or down. So it says, use the graph in example 1. Write the coordinates of B and C. So write down the coordinates of B and C, and then we'll go over. All right, B is right here. You should have written, so I'm going to go over 2, and down 3, -3. So that's 2, -3. The coordinates of C are over 3, so +3, up 3, +3. So it's 3, 3. And then it says, identify the quadrants in which B and C are located. So I like to label the quadrants first. So I go, okay, this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. So then I can see, okay, A is in quadrant 2. So I can say, okay, that's in quadrant 2. B is in quadrant 4. And C is in quadrant 1. It's super easy to label if you just do it right on your graph and then label all your answers. All right, example 2. To graph point A, which is x, y, in the coordinate plane, you graph the ordered pair x, y. Okay, so this says graph the point R, which is 3, -4.5. So if I want to graph R, I start at 0, I go over 3, and then I go down 4.5. Now it's not going to be perfect because it's a 4.5, but it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're in between 4 and 5, you're totally fine. And then make a dot and label it R. Don't forget your label. So many times kids forget to label. So it says, graph these points on one coordinate plane, K, L, and M. Draw lines to connect points K, L, and M and describe what figure results. So do this in your notes and then we will go over it. Okay, I'm just going to do it right on this graph right up here. Point K is 3, 1. So I'm going to go over 3, up 1, and I'm going to make a dot, and I'm going to label it K. Point L is -2, up 1, 2.5, up 1. That's point L. And then M is -2, -4, and that is M. So I'm going to connect these points. And I see that I have a right triangle. Or you could have just said triangle. Totally fine. This is kind of neat. I really like these real world connections so you can see when am I ever going to use this in my real life. If you know about the globe, it says latitude and longitude are measurements in a coordinate system that locate every point on the Earth's surface. So that's kind of cool. It's like the whole Earth is drawn out in a coordinate plane. Also, we'll talk about in class, but Washington, D.C., the city, was built and they drew it out in a coordinate grid by, like, they put City Hall right in the middle and then everything goes off of it. It's really neat. So we'll talk about that in class. But that is it for your notes.